Accessing library computer data.
Out there are no saints. Just people.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We are continuing our run through Star Trek Deep Space Nine. We're up to the 4th episode of the 3rd season. It's called Equilibrium. It aired on October 17th, 1994. Teleplay goes to Renee Echevarria, fresh over from TNG. Story credit goes to Christopher Teague, directed by Cliff Bowl. In this episode, Jadzia Dax is plagued by disturbing hallucinations that allude to the dark past of the Dax symbiont. We're joined by Amy to talk about this one. Amy, you have some...
Hey, guys.
You have some pressure. I did one alone before this, and people don't like when I do this alone. So you are here to save the day. So you have to really, after a subpar outing by myself, a masturbatory session by myself, you have to come in and save the day with some Dax knowledge. Are you up? Are you up for it?
Yes.
You were falling asleep during the episode.
I was not falling asleep because of the episode. I was falling asleep for other reasons.
I think it's an episode well worth falling asleep for, but we'll break it down. We're going to take a break. We'll play an audio clip, and then me and Amy are going to come back, and we're going to break down Equilibrium.
Jadzia, it's good to see you again.
Dr. Renhall, everyone's very excited about your being here, you know.
Jadzia is the only initiate to ever successfully reapply to the program after being dropped. You must be Dr. Bashir.
That's right.
Commander Benjamin Sisko.
Ah, yes, Curzon's friend.
Yes, I had that privilege.
Did you get a chance to look over the test results?
Yes, I did. As you noted, Doctor, her isoboramine levels are low, so I put her on a benzocyanic regimen to compensate. As you can see, there's already a 3% improvement.
Will I have to stay here for the duration of the treatment?
No, Dr. Bashir can administer it. But I do want to see you back here tomorrow for a follow-up. And for lunch.
I'd like that.
All right, so we're back. We're going to talk about Equilibrium, which I might have... I'll give you your free reign here, but I thought this episode is actually very, very boring, although it's kind of boring and it's kind of bad just because of the way that the Trill have been defined, and it's pretty stock standard for being a bad Trill episode. So I don't think they really change anything. I don't think it's bad for any unique reasons about why I don't really like the Trill episodes and Dax-focused episodes. But I'm curious about what you thought about it.
I think I'm intrigued by the idea of the Trill. Like I don't know, I find it kind of like thought-provoking. I think what made this kind of difficult to watch was I don't think...
The fact that it's terrible.
Well,
it's a bad episode.
The actress who plays Dax is not particularly good. She's I think, kind of stilted in her acting, and it feels kind of forced sometimes when she needs to, she was like, I just have so much anger, it's like it didn't seem like believable, so like I don't know, I find her just a little difficult to watch. But I whenever I watch a Trill episode, I want to learn more about them because I think it's a cool idea, but I'm always left with all these questions at the end. A lot of like what ifs or the things that just seem kind of open-ended and loose or something. And I feel that way at the end of this episode, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that this episode ends in a extremely unsatisfying way. It almost ends it's just like the time ran out and they're just like, all right, this is the end of the episode at this point. But I think before we get into it, I'll say that I think it's a bad episode because it fits a lot of... We've watched so many of these bad episodes of Star Trek or Star Trek episodes, and like I now sort of see structurally episodes that feel stock standard in a way. Like this is the kind of episode that feels to me like it was written by, or the idea came from Chris Teague or something like that. It feels like it was a pitch, like some writer that came up with the story and just came up with like a structure that is so standard for the series. It's like it's a plot line that is not layered. Everything that just kind of happens is just a beat happens, they reveal what the answer is, and then another beat happens, they talk to some guy tells them an answer, and then they go off and they do something else. Like nothing really builds on anything. It doesn't feel like the story is really about anything or meaning of anything. It's just a means to an end to get from point A to point B, and then do that for 45 minutes, basically, to get through it. And you never... It's such a boring episode because it's not until like the last 5 minutes when they reveal what's going on that you actually start to care about anything. It's so boring until that point because you don't have any... A, you don't know what the trill are about, and B, you don't know what the problem is. So it's like Jedzia is fainting or getting angry. It's like, who cares? Like, tell me, you need to at least give me a little bit of information about why I should care about watching this.
Yeah, and I think, like, I kind of spent, like, the I don't know, after 75% of the episode thinking that the doctor, the female doctor who was taking care of Jadzia, was, like, paid off or something to join, what was that dude's name? Geron. With Dax, that there is kind of this, like, you know, because it's so competitive to become a host, that there was, you know, kind of this, like, subset of people who, like, I don't know, this, like, dark underworld or something that, you know, improperly joined host and symbiote. But then at the end it's just like, oh, it was just a mistake. And I don't know, I just found that, like, really unsatisfying.
Yep.
And it, you know, I don't know. And then at the end you're just like, all right, so these guys, like, might be somewhat, I don't know, that, like, I understand mistakes will happen because it's an imperfect process, but it just seemed like a really lame ending.
Well, we ended the episode by sort of hashing out what we thought had gone on, and we were both kind of unsure. So I think maybe it's good if we just go over what happened. So Geron, or Jadzia, is suffering from these memories or hallucinations where she's seeing the memories of a previous host. And they discover that it's this guy named Geron who was also
in Eyes Wide Shut. Because
it's a very Eyes Wide Shut influence thing. I was thinking of Eyes Wide Shut because of the mask. Although,
then, like, the mask and, like, up on the balcony, like,
the mask,
super creepy.
with the what's the Eyes Wide Shut? But I just think of there's the I can't think of the Eyes Wide Shut theme, but
I can't either.
I actually thought those masks were kind of creepy. They were very creepy. The best part of the episode might be the masked hallucination.
It was
scenes.
Like the first time in Star Trek where I felt kind of scared.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, this is like a creepy scene. Where a lot of times it's kind of like feels goofy.
Yeah. And they still look goofy, but I thought the idea was scary.
It was creepy. Yeah.
And so she's seeing these images of Geron or whatever, and it's revealed that the Dax symbiote is sort of having these memories break through, and I'm sort of all over the place here, but they go to the Trill homeworld, and they learn that the Geron had been joined with the Dax symbiote before Curzon, and it was covered up. And apparently he went through training to become a initiative. They gave him a symbiont, but they did it before they gave him, like, psychological testing or something.
Evidently,
I don't know. But the point is that he is considered to be unsuitable because he's a violent personality, and he shouldn't be allowed to join with a symbiont. But they had given him one, and so for 6 months he had the symbiote, and that disproves this sort of, like, official statement that if you're not suitable to be joined, you'll die within a couple days of doing it. So him being unsuitable and surviving means that the stock of potential symbiont joiners is much bigger than they had been letting on.
Yeah. And
so they were covering this up because they don't want this society to collapse, because then everyone will start fighting over the symbionts, apparently. They suppress Dax, the symbiont's memories of it, and then they give him to Curzon, and Geron gets killed at the end. He kills the doctor who took the Trill from him, and then he gets killed?
Was killed because he was removed from the symbiont. Doesn't that kill the host?
Oh, that should. Does that mean the memory where he stabs the guy is all fake? Why would that memory exist?
Well, the memory of him, this is something that confused me. If Dax has this memory, he must have killed the doctor out of vengeance after he was joined with Dax.
Yes, that's my understanding. So did they take the symbiote out and then he killed him because he did that to him, or did he die after having the symbiote taken out?
He must have died after the symbiote was taken out, otherwise Dax wouldn't have had those memories. I mean, doesn't Dax...
Oh, Dax would have to be inside.
Dax would have to be, I think, or if I understand the Trill properly, that that was part of like Dax's experience.
Yeah. No, that would make more sense. So
But it just seems like such an egregious error on the part of the Trill. This like super competitive. I mean, maybe,
why did he kill the doctor? He killed the doctor because...
I'm assuming out of vengeance, because according to what his brother told him, this is where I get confused, because according when Sisko was talking to that guy's brother, he told him that he had been kicked out of the initiative after 2 years in the second year. So I'm assuming that means that he was joined with Dax within that time frame.
Yep.
But then you'd think he would have died, and I know, I'm still like working through this, because you think as soon as he was removed from Dax, he would have died immediately, and he wouldn't have even been able to tell his brother that he was kicked out. And that's why I thought he was joined with Dax, like, illicitly.
Right.
That he was, like, kicked out and then was so angry, killed the doctor, and then got that female doctor to join him improperly.
So I guess...
This is where I'm sorry, everybody. I'm not being... Like, I just... It's confusing to me.
I guess we've come to the point that I don't know if the plot line of the Duran story makes a lot of sense in and of itself. Like, for him to have the memory, Dax would have had to have been inside him.
Right.
Did he kill the doctor because he learned that he was going to get kicked out of the initiative, and so he killed him before he could do it, and that's why Dax has the memory?
Oh, that makes sense.
And then they took it out of him, and he died.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that makes sense. But then he was only disallowed because of bad psychological testing. He hadn't actually done anything.
Yeah, they must have been like, whoa, this dude's fucking crazy. He can't.
We better not tell him that he shouldn't do this because he'll kill one of us, and then he goes ahead and kills the guy anyway. So that's so I don't want to get hung up on it, but it's just kind of like silly that...
It is weird. It seems entirely preventable. And it could be that maybe that the initiative has like totally reframed its format, and in time, like when Jadzia joined, it seemed like traumatic just in terms of how rigorous it was, and perhaps it wasn't always that way. But again, It would make sense if this was such a...
But it was pretty recent. Like, they should have memory of that. Like, if it happened 70 years ago, you should have people alive who remember that there was a big change with the joining process where they suddenly became hardline.
And even that just seems hard to believe, because the joining process is so intense, because it can kill both symbiont and host.
So, I mean, I think that, like I was talking at the open, the Trill have a problem in that the Trill are extremely poorly defined, where... You've done a Dax episode, I think.
Yeah.
You did the Dax episode.
The Dax episode.
But I think that the problem with this storyline, it's like it's all over the place. Like whenever the Trill are talking to each other, the Trill interactions don't make any sense. Like I feel like the Trill that are joined with symbionts should have a lot of like, oh hey, it's you from 200 years ago. Like they should recognize other symbionts or something, but they don't seem to do that. There doesn't seem to be any point to joining with them, because the Trill who aren't joined live fairly normal lives. They're like working with the symbionts in the Minority Report pools where they're like feeding them and stuff. And the symbionts don't give you anything. You don't get anything out of doing this. The symbionts get to move around, I guess, but it's like it's not like joining gives you some perk. And I was thinking
it kind of reminds me of like going through residency as a doctor or something. It's like this prestigious but like somewhat soul-sucking experience where like you become you're just a learned, distinguished person.
But are they even distinguished? They seem exactly the same as all the other Trills. Like I mean,
I think in their society though, they're seen
considered
as
prestigious.
They're considered prestigious, and perhaps that's enough.
Right, and it's kind of like a diamonds. They're like it's artificial amounts of prestige, because anyone could apparently just join with the Trill, and it wouldn't
evidently,
really
or it's like slip through the cracks. Which way I really don't know. I feel like something.
But I mean,
shady happened with.
Why would they fight? Why would the Trill? She says if we told the society about this, everything would break down because people would be fighting to get a Trill. They already are competing with each other heavily to get it, but why? What do you gain from being joined?
If anything, they'd be pointing out all the flaws in the initiate, like, structure.
It should water it down. It should be like, it's not special at all.
It would be kind of like an expose of the flaws within that system, which seems airtight. It seems like they have everything down to like this, like every single bit is thought out and measured beforehand, but evidently that's not what happens. That's why I kind of wish they kind of created this, like, you'd think it's the kind of thing that is perfect for some kind of illicit thing where people want to become it so badly that they're willing to do whatever, and that there are crooked doctors out there who are willing to join improper hosts with symbionts.
Right, if they're paid the right amount or something.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. But it's like, what's up with that doctor? She's obviously the one that joined.
I don't know. Was she joined?
Or
I don't
she's
know
just
if we
part of
get
the cover-up.
I think she's part of the cover, but that's I can't tell if she's joined or not. Like, the Dax symbiont should recognize her or something, right? Wouldn't that add a little bit of color to the Trill Society if it's like, oh, because they're so long living, the symbionts have this like historical knowledge to go back on, and they kind of recognize other symbiont hosts and
things.
Are
you asking if the doctor's a symbiont and a host?
If the doctor is joined.
I don't think so. I don't get that.
But wouldn't she have? I don't know. I actually don't remember if they talked about this. Was she not there during the Geron thing?
Well, she must have. I don't know.
Was her symbiont or whatever not there?
I don't know if she was there during the Geron thing, but I think she may have been, since she was there when Jadzia was there during the initiative. She knew her. She may have been responsible for like erasing her memory. Like, she may have been part of the team. No, but
that was Dax's memory was erased. The symbiont's memory was erased.
Yeah, but she could have been part of that too, right?
But that would have happened 70 years before Jadzia. The Geron thing is 70 years before all of this happened.
Maybe each time she joins, though, she has to be the symbiont has to be like re-erased.
They made it just sound like it was a one-time thing, and Curzon survived it.
Curzon did
but
okay.
But Jadzia did not.
Maybe there's like a 70-year.
She brought up the wormhole. I don't know if they actually said that the wormhole was responsible.
Yeah, that was a total loose end.
I guess it is responsible. I guess that's what we're supposed to know. Like, her going through the wormhole caused all the memory blocks to fall apart or something.
I mean, that's... It's
fine.
Yeah, that's fine. But they never mentioned that again.
But,
this episode's bad.
I was thinking that,
or I was just really sleepy.
So fundamentally, the Trill fail as a society because of how ill-defined they are. And I was thinking that the ending... One of the previous podcast listeners had mentioned that he'd always wondered, I think it was he, had always thought that maybe the Trill symbionts should be like they are, and the Trill humanoids, if they're not joined, should be like cavemen types. Like, they shouldn't be very intelligent. They should be like a sort of like dumb.
Yeah, there should be like a very distinct.
And when they're joined, they become sort of like normal, or they become humanoids with like average intelligence, like they become like normal humans basically, and that would give you an incentive to join. And it would explain why it's so important. It's because there's like a small number of them that need to be. This episode seems to throw a lot of shit on that, because the symbionts are hanging out in the pools. There's apparently not a very limited number of them. Like, the symbionts are down in those caves that they say stretch on for miles, and they're all being born or breeding there. So there's a lot of them. You don't seem to get anything from the joining. And then I was wondering at the very end, I think the episode really just fails because it doesn't bring about this like conflict until the very end. Like, is this about Dax reconciling with her past life or anything? It doesn't really talk about that. It doesn't do anything with it. And I was thinking that maybe the way I would have fixed this would be the joining between the symbiont and the humanoid is like a supreme love relationship, like, and that the previous hosts are kind of like past lovers to the symbiont or something, like, because they kind of have that in the pool where it's like you're a part of me and you'll always be a part of me. And I feel like there's a lot of dramatic stuff that they could do with that, where it's like it's a way to explore relationships within one character, and it would also give the Trill a reason to want the symbionts, because it's kind of like an emotional drug addiction on some level. Like, it's like they're allowed to sort of transcend something if they're joined, and they can experience this like lifetime, and it's like the most wonderful romantic relationship that they could be in. Like, it's like pure love being joined with them or something, and they don't really touch on that. But I thought that
between the hosts, you mean, or between the symbiont
and the host, and the past memories are just like past I think in that case, the symbiont should take more of the personality of the joint creature than it seems to. Like the humanoid seems to have more control than the symbiont does, but I think it should be flipped, and the symbiont should see the past hosts as like exes, like sort of like exes that die, basically, because they live with them an entire lifetime.
Yeah.
They don't touch on any of that. That's nothing that. But that's how I.
And
would
that was
fix
actually
it.
that was my first question to you. Remember when we started the episode? I asked to clarify. I was like, does the symbiont have any kind of identity, or is it just a?
Well, what did you get from this episode?
No, I never think the symbiont has an identity, just because it seems as though from the way like Benjamin talks about, is it Curzon?
Curzon, yeah.
Curzon, and he like distinguishes them. That's like the symbiont seems separate.
And
from the
Jadzia
host.
refers to it as the symbiont, as opposed to
As
Dax saying
as
I,
like herself.
or I, or yeah, or the, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's very. I think it's very inconsistent with how they refer to it, because I think they're stuck with writing. Like the English language doesn't really handle it well.
And the way that, and like, you know, the way the symbionts are cared for, they don't seem like they have any kind of humanity, really. You know, but
No,
the
they're
way
just
that
like- they're just like fish.
they seem like kind of just these specimens that have to be looked after.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really make any sense to me, because they're the focal point.
The thing that binds the society together, apparently.
Exactly. So they need to. Yeah. So I don't. Yeah.
That would have been my. I just think it's a. I think on a structural level.
I like the caveman idea.
You like that better?
Well, I think it makes more sense, because it shows. Again, it gives like incentive to why you'd want to go through that process. And yeah, now that I think more about it, there seems to be more symbionts than there are eligible hosts in the society, because she said only half of their society are good
joinable
fits for the symbionts.
It just means it's not that impressive, I guess, to be joined. And at that point, why not just join everybody and just, or join the people that they actually could? Because her point doesn't make any sense, because if more people could join, when you have less fighting to get if you're artificially making the demand high, then there should be more fighting to get the troll. Because we had a previous episode where a guy tried to steal the symbiont.
Because he wasn't able to join.
Right, and so he's like, I'll steal the Dax symbiont.
And that episode made more sense to me.
Yeah, than the resolution of this one does.
Yes, that one made more sense. Like how someone could be just after going through that and not given what they worked so hard for. I get that emotion more than
the cover up of just society will fall apart. Yeah.
Yeah, and there doesn't really seem to be any consequences for what they did.
No, they came pretty close to destroying a culture, sort of.
Yeah.
Apparently, anyway, they came allegedly pretty close to destroying it. Cisco decided not to, because he saved Jadzia, which maybe that's a thing of this series as opposed to TNG. But I the episode doesn't even really care about that. It's just like, no, we'll just move on from this. Yeah, I don't think it's particularly good. But did you have anything else you wanted to talk about before we go to final thoughts?
No. What was the title of it?
Equilibrium.
Equilibrium. I was trying to think what that.
They have a reference to her levels being out of whack, and I think that's it. I don't know if there's some sort of
because those memories were surfacing, and she didn't know how to handle them.
It was like her blood type or something was out. There was some made up chemical that was out of whack. Isomorphine or something. Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know if there's a more
and I really wish I loved
symbolic meaning.
Bashir knew that she was in neurogenic shock just by
touching her head. Touching her forehead. He's a damn good doctor.
Yeah, he really is. He knows his stuff.
And those two interaction is funny. It's like, but it was also tying me in why if you do the romantic thing between the Trill, it would make a sense of her not being interested in a romantic relationship with Bashir, because it's like you're already in something. That's not the case, because they've shown that Dax kind of fucks around, which is interesting.
See that's funny to me, because I would have think the Trill to be like more of like an asexual species.
They are. That's the way she's generally written. Oh, yeah. Is that she's very promiscuous, I guess, or she's like she's a wild child.
Jadzia Dax is?
Jadzia Dax is
promiscuous.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if Curzon was supposed to, but I mean they've gone through.
But I guess that's Jadzia.
Many relationships.
Is
Maybe. Although I guess pre-joining she was supposed to be super studious, and she became something of a wild child after the joining. That's kind of thing. So I don't know if the symbiont is supposed to be kind of a wild child symbiont. It's unclear.
Yeah, it makes more because. Yeah, because she doesn't even. Maybe it's like her acting is so stiff that she doesn't even flirt really with Bashir. She doesn't really lead him on, or like I never believe that she is.
No, they've kind of given up on that, I think. I'm holding that over from previous episodes. I don't know if they actually still hold on to that. I mean, the scene in the Defiant where they're in the bunks together, it kind of implies that they've moved on. They're more friends than he's trying to hit on her at this point. Yeah. Which is good for the series, but it's different from what it was.
Yeah.
I think that's it's our isoboramine levels.
Isoboramine.
They had risen another 6%. Every time you have, there's a lot of
3% increase is too much. Yeah.
Anytime there's an episode where a lot of people are looking over the computer screens and sort of reading things is generally not a particularly good time, and they do that a lot in this episode. I just think I didn't like this episode just because it's so stock standard, and it's like. There's like no reason to keep watching it. You know, like after the first 20 minutes, you're like, are we ever going to learn what this episode is going to be something about? And then it's finally about something sort of in the last 5 minutes, but not really because they never really touch on it. And then Jadzia just ends it by playing the piano. I guess she's in touch with her previous history.
Yeah, she's just coming to terms with those difficult memories, I guess.
But at that point, it's again being confused about whether or not the Dax symbiote is in control because Jadzia has no relationship to this person. Right. It's like, so the Dax symbiote is the only one that can feel anything about it, and the symbionts seem to be just blank hard drives that like walk around inside of people.
And I guess, and perhaps it has something to do with the personality of the host that helps them process this new information.
Maybe.
You know, like like what kind of person the host is, and like how resilient they are, how intelligent they are.
See, I'd even like the Trill being super willing to let Jadzia die to save Dax. Makes sense if this is like what they prioritize. Like the hosts aren't particularly important, but the symbionts are very important. But they do it just because of a cover up. Right, it's not like a real examination of what this society believes or anything, because everything they believe seems to be bullshit, which is not a particularly interesting way to go approach a race. Like, and be like they're basically all con artists who have been lying about everything. It would have been better to, I don't know, if the Dax symbiont takes priority, the discussion is about whether it's right to save that symbiont and to let her die is kind of the point. And like they would think that yes, of course it is, and Starfleet would say no, you have to save her as well. That's our Starfleet way or whatever.
Yeah, and if the symbionts are so important, how come there's one dude down there tending to kilometers of symbionts?
He was giving them electrical juice or something.
Keeping them happy.
Oh my god. Yeah, he was, he's just a character who exists to give you plot information. It's that kind of an episode. It's like this character appears just to give you information, and then he's like, I'm scared. I'm going to run away now.
Yeah, they told me not to say anything.
They told me not to say anything. I don't know. Let's see here. I think we're done. Anyway, we'll take a break. We'll play an audio clip, and me and Amy will come back. We'll read Patron Thoughts, and then give our final thoughts, and then we will call it a day.
Tell me, Doctor, how many of your people are suitable for joining?
I don't see how that's relevant.
I understand the percentage is very low, maybe 1 in 1,000.
That's right.
Which is why the candidates are put through such rigorous testing.
That's how we make sure the symbionts aren't given to an unsuitable host.
What would happen if, for some reason, a symbiont was given to an unsuitable host?
That doesn't happen.
Or what if it did?
Rejection would set in. The host and the symbiont would both die.
How long before rejection would set in?
3, maybe 4 days.
Then someone like Duran Belar, an unstable personality with violent tendencies, should have rejected a symbiont within a matter of days, yet that didn't happen, did it? According to our information, he was joined to the Dax symbiont for 6 months.
6 months, Doctor. If a man like Duran Belar can be joined successfully for that long, how many others can be joined as well? Hundreds? Thousands? Certainly more than the Symbiosis Commission would have us believe. And that is what you've been trying to cover up all along, isn't it? That's why you're willing to let Jadzia die.
All right, so we're back. Equilibrium. Good discussion, Amy.
I think so.
Okay.
Hopefully the people are happy.
We sorted it out.
Hopefully they'll be left with no question.
Not a very good episode. We'll read some patron thoughts if you guys support the show at patreon.com/the Pensky File. You get to leave thoughts about upcoming episodes, and we read them and react to them on the show. So, Amy, do you want to read this first one? I've highlighted all the ones that need to be read.
Thank you for doing that.
So, Zam Nuclear Wessel writes...
Okay.
Hold on. There we go.
Let's get rid of that box. Equilibrium. Some cool suspense, but most importantly, it feeds my headcanon that all of Trill's society is built on lies, to keep the humanoids from freaking out at the fact that the symbionts basically run the planet. More on this in later episodes. That's internet abbreviation that I was sorting through.
I would disagree about cool suspense unless you're talking about the
Eyes Wide Shut.
The Eyes Wide Shut scenes.
Yeah.
Those are decent.
It wasn't even. I wouldn't even call that suspense. It was more just kind of like a scare, because it didn't
unsettling.
It didn't build towards anything.
Well, and why were they in masks?
Well, he was. I think it was supposed to be
he killed the doctor in that mask.
Yeah.
Why would he disguise himself? He wants this guy to know why he's killing him, right?
I mean, I think
it's not a mysterious murder. He wants vengeance on that doctor.
He wants vengeance on that doctor. Yeah, but I think that's supposed to be him in his murder outfit.
Okay, so he
if I was, I mean, it's a
he wore white after Labor Day in his murder outfit.
White mask, yeah.
White mask. All right. So I disagree about cool suspense, but Troll Society being built on lies seems to be the case.
Or just confusion. Yeah.
Stephen Cobb says,
Dax has so much to do in this episode, but does not do it very well. Agreed. She does not seem to have much range. I think the writers gave her character a lot to work with, but she did not do anything with it. Interesting world building with Trill, but it doesn't have any impact. At least Doran shows up in future episodes, so there's some consequence from this episode.
I believe he only shows up in one episode, although I might be wrong about that. I think he just comes back as a vision of the previous hosts, but I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. She can't, that actress just doesn't.
Yeah, I've talked about her at length.
Oh, you have? Yeah.
So I'm not going to chime in.
She's difficult to watch. Now that I'm watching Elizabeth Moss and Handmaid's Tale, it's just.
I think it's a case of the writers not supporting the actress in a way. Like if this is what she's capable of doing, you shouldn't give her stuff that is requires this kind of, I don't even know what she's supposed to be feeling in this episode. Like, I can't even blame her for the performance here, because it's like, what does Jadzia feel? She's either fainting or shaking, or there's no emotional stakes to anything. She gets to be angry for no particular reason, and then they're just like, snap out of your anger.
That's that host coming through.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
I think that's why he was unsuitable from the get-go, because that's his rage, an ambition, seeping through her that she doesn't know how to sort through, that all of a sudden that memory's unearthed and it's completely new to her physiology.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I just don't find it particularly satisfying. Yeah. Next up, Kyle Barrett.
The episode begins quite poorly with Sisko's bizarre cooking noises and Dax hearing a tune in a Battlestar Galactica type way. That must have been Ronald D. Moore's influence. But once the action moves to Trill, the episode picks up. I like the central mystery and exploration of the Trill, but it's still far too vague and undefined. Why do they only want a few Trill to be joined while most can be? How many symbionts are there? What's so good about joining in the first place? These are things that are still without answers, and so the revelations make little impact without the appropriate context. Yeah, that's pretty much everything you said.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a story that has no consequences. There's no relevance to anything that happens, so it's extremely unsatisfying. Thank you, Kyle. Going to Matthew and Ross.
Another painful Dax episode. Didn't we already learn they don't know what to do with the Trill? Who's driving that body, Jadzia or Dax? Why would Cassio Sampler still be popular in the 24th century? How is it she rates taking the Defiant and not a crappy runabout to Trill? Anyway, maybe it's Maybe it's Farrell, the script, or both, but the whole point of joining seems meaningless. What exactly do the symbionts give besides memory storage? I believe it was mentioned on an earlier cast that there should be some differentiation of those joined and not, i.e. the symbionts are the reason for the advance of technology, but nope. And the central mystery of calling the Pepperidge Farm man/brother whom claims he has no idea about his dead brother, the murderer, but then he suddenly remembers everything.
And he's very eager to tell Cisco about this. So he's been waiting for someone to ask him about his brother, the guy who got joined for 6 months. Sorry.
No, it's fine. The oddly pornographic scene at the end of Farrell in white in a hot tub of electric blob should be relegated to the soft porn of late night TV and seems ultimately pointless. Even the conspiracy on picking whom gets joined, honestly, who cares?
That just, the scene where she walks in her nightie into the pool is bizarre, but I think it makes sense. Like, she needs another symbiont to awaken it or something, like to communicate with the Dax and like free him. But then
at least it gave some kind of like meaning to.
And I think it was even clutching at straw. I don't even know if it gave meaning as much as like I was like, oh, I bet I could infer some meaning from her hugging that previous host and be like, maybe.
Or like it kind of gives what frustrates you about the Trill, like some kind of like interconnectedness or connection between symbionts and between hosts.
Pretty much the Trill host stories are a version of I used to know a guy. Every story is like Curzon used to enjoy like drinking a 6-pack of beer and passing out like while watching the baseball game. It's like everything is
it's like memories of a good friend, not like part of your identity.
Of what
that's
I did.
That's how it seems.
Let's see here. So thank you, Matthew. I think that's it. Not many. Oh no, there isn't. There's one more. I always forget this. I have to go here. This one. So Holly McLaughlin writes,
I enjoyed this on a story level, and I especially like it on a metaphorical level. Jorn is part of Dax's past, a difficult to accept and ugly part, but accepting and integrating that part is the only way Dax can move forward. Life lessons are usually a lot less interesting than this when delivered by a TV show.
what do you think?
I mean, again, I feel like intrigued by the idea of the Trill, but I'm just always frustrated by how it turns out.
Well, I think it's funny.
I get like, you know, if we're gonna put a positive spin on the end, then I guess Dax moves forward, but it's still like so unclear like how she moves forward and like why all of a sudden it's not. I mean, I guess she just needed that interaction with Jorn at the end in order to like for her to come to terms with it and not be haunted anymore.
I guess that's a pretty pat reading.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying that you're incorrect, but I think that it's just a rush to get to the end there. That should have happened halfway through the episode, you know, and then you can kind of like look at what that actually means for like the Trill to move on and stuff. But it's just they're more interested in like this concept of the Trill as like how they work on a technical level than making a good story about how the Trill work.
Yet they can't get the Trill on the technical level right.
No, because it's all over the place. Yeah. They do every single version of whatever you think a Trill relationship would actually be. But thank you, Holly. I guess you like this one more than I actually do, or more than Amy does. But I'd agree with your point. I just don't know if the episode gets there for me.
I think that's the point of the episode. But it's not. I don't think they delivered on that.
Sure. All right. I think that's it. I think we're done. One more scroll through here. Yeah, we're done. Anyway, we'll give our ratings on our 1 to 5 scale. Amy, what are you going to give this episode?
I think like a 2.
Okay. It's pretty harsh. I'm going to give it a 4. But no, I'm going to give this one I think I'm going to give it a 1, actually, because it was remarkably boring. It's one of those ones, I had actually not seen it in a while, so I didn't know how good it was, but it's one of those ones where I feel doing this with like Clay or Modi is a little bit easier because I'm not sitting there with them while they're watching the episode. So I don't have this like schadenfreude or whatever about like feeling bad about like making someone sit and watch an episode like that, but it wasn't a very good episode. It was pretty boring.
I know. I knew Wes didn't like it because when we had like a busy day today with like family stuff, but when I was like dozing, Wes kind of like gently like tried to wake me up, where usually he's like, you know, like, Amy, get up, like, stop it, you know. He was like nice about it, which makes me feel like he was feeling my pain a little bit.
You need to pay attention. I can't have you come on and be like, well, I fell asleep halfway through.
Well, I've also, this week's been terrible. I've fallen asleep during every TV show we've watched after 8 p.m. I missed
8 p.m.'s bedtime.
Yeah. So
Well, we'll save that for the non sequitur. I'm going to give it a 1. You're going to give it a 2.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be nice.
We also, for the DS9, you can now just sort of say if you were to watch this again, would you give this a must watch, might watch, don't watch?
Don't watch.
Don't watch, yeah. I agree that it's a don't watch, which is too bad. Maybe Dax will eventually get there someday, but they haven't gotten there yet. I think that's it. Guys, thank you very much for listening. If you go to patreon.com/the Pensky File, you can support the show there. A couple dollars a month, you get extra stuff. You get to leave your thoughts about upcoming episodes. You get podcasts. You get all that kind of stuff. That's the best way to support the show.
And you're supporting our family.
That's right.
So thank you.
And you, otherwise, you can go to all the social media, which is Facebook, Twitter, Discord, Reddit, blah, blah, blah. All the links will be in the video description or the podcast blurb. Check out Discord, though. It's actually a good, fun place to be. That sounded like I was being flippant, but it's actually good. I enjoy it more than all the other. I'm less on Twitter now and stuff just because of the Discord. I find it more interesting. And as always, the $10 Captain Patron tiers get shouted out at the end here. Vincent Adultman, Stephen Cobb, Andrew Kurlog. Think that's how you pronounce that name? Kurlog?
Jorlog? Do you think the case sounded?
I don't know. Well, Andrew, we apologize, but we'll have to look that one up in the meantime. Matthew Cutler, Spinobi, Russ Graham, Eric Johnson, Nathan Elliott, Ewan Tibbetts, Decker Sebastiani, Neil Brennan, Carrier Mobility, Doug Valcamp, Michael Pond, Bradley Killens, Rune Vendler, Jay Stanley, Mike Burnett, Matthew Ross, Ben Douglas, Kyle Barrett, Joint Mango, Tarek Latif. Guys, thank you very much for supporting the show. It means a lot. Much appreciated. And outside of that, I think we're done. So non-sequiturs, do you have any TV shows that you'd want to recommend? Or anything pop in your head that you just want to tell the world about?
Oh, yeah, because I mentioned it before. I am watching The Handmaid's Tale.
Do you like it, dislike it?
I like it. It's not bingeable at all. You need breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's pretty... I like heavy shows, and this one's particularly heavy for me. There's just not a lot...
heavy.
I know. Don't know.
It's pretty... It seems pretty intense. It's a lot of...
There's not a lot of comic relief from it. Like, even in shows like Breaking Bad, you'd have some like dark humor to give you a break from how horrible the universe is. You don't get a lot of that in Handmaid's Tale, although the acting is stellar.
Very good. And I watched Evil Genius on Netflix, which is a 4-episode documentary series about the pizza bomb caller guy in Pennsylvania, which is good. I'm glad it's only 4 episodes because I'd probably think less of it if it was longer. But I thought it was just okay. I think I'll do a video on it, actually, a review or something. But that's about it. I would recommend that if you got 3.5 hours to watch something.
Yeah, I had a lot of desire to watch that one, but my
sleep schedule fell apart.
I haven't asked Wes to put that one on, and then fell asleep within 10 seconds of it starting.
Guys, thank you very much for listening. Amy, thank you for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for bearing with me, guys.
And we will be back in a couple days with the episode that is after Equilibrium. I always try to remember to do this, and it never actually happens. So it's Second Skin. That's right. So we'll be back in a couple days with Second Skin. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.